Over the past 2 years, Penn State has turned into a 500 football team. Is this the year they bounce back? Let's take a look at the Nittany Lions. Before we dive into Penn State, just a reminder, hit subscribe and also hit the bell to stay notified for whenever there's an upload or any type of action here on this channel. We've got plenty of previews coming up, of season previews. We got game previews, game reactions during the season, also looking at a possible weekly live stream. So hit subscribe to stay notified. Now, Penn State, I'm going to hit you with a few numbers to start this preview. In the last 22 games, this team is an even 11-11, a far cry from those 10-win seasons that Penn State put up about 5 or 6 years back, including a Big Ten championship during that time. Last year, they started 5-0. They were ranked 4th in the country before heading to Iowa City, and then the buzzsaw that was Iowa football cut them off. They finished 2-6 after that game. That being said, let's head in and talk about, first, the defensive secondary, because I believe that's the strength of this team. If you follow college football previews, preview magazines, you know the name Phil Steele. And Phil Steele has ranked this the number 4 defensive secondary in the entire nation. When you look at the guys that are going to make the secondary stand out, you got to start with Joey Porter Jr. I love his size. At 6'2", he can go toe-to-toe and sometimes even head-to-head with some of the best receivers, taller, bigger receivers in the Big Ten Conference. When I think of the best corners in this conference, Joey Porter Jr. is one of them. He's right up there. The other one I think of is Riley Moss at Iowa. Now, although Joey Porter Jr. doesn't have eye-popping type of turnover numbers that Riley Moss did, he's more of a lockdown guy, so good luck to all the receivers that are going to match up against him, like a Revis Island situation. That's kind of what it is in Porter Purgatory. Maybe that will trend and maybe that will become a thing. We'll see. Third team All Big Ten last year. You know who else was third team All Big Ten? Jair Brown at safety. Now, when we talk about turnover machines, you got to mention Jair Brown. Last season, 6 interceptions. That led everybody in the Big Ten Conference. And Penn State hasn't had a guy like that on campus to get that many turnovers in a season since 2006. So these are 2 guys, not only on Penn State's team, but in the entire conference, maybe the entire nation. These are 2 of the best guys in the secondary back there for Penn State, and it's going to be very difficult to throw the ball on Penn State. If you're trying to force it into an area, double coverage, I don't know. I just wouldn't do that if I were you, if you were throwing that ball. That's all. Now, what happened to linebacker U? Ellis Brooks was a decent linebacker last season. He moves on. He's with the Green Bay Packers. 100 tackles last season for Ellis Brooks. 4 out of the 5 top tacklers are moving on. And the guy that they're going to expect to step up is Curtis Jacobs in that linebacking core, but not a ton of depth back there for Penn State. So we'll see how that all works out. We'll see if somebody can step up and be a big-time performer. I want to take a look at your defensive line. It's a veteran group up front on the D-line, but I'm going to throw out the first of a lot of real good freshmen that are coming on campus to Penn State here this season. Danny Dennis Sutton, a 5-star defensive end, top 30 player nationally. You're going to be hearing that a lot as this video goes on. Lots of potential to really come off the edge and be a really good edge rusher. The question is he going to be good enough to be able to get on the field, get those snaps, and make an impact right away? You got a guy in Chop Robinson who's transferring in from Maryland, like I said, a veteran D-line. If he can get in and if he can rise to the occasion through fall camp and get on the field, he could wreak havoc into backfields. Let's move on to offense. Sean Clifford, 5th in the Big Ten in passing yards last season. 5th in the Big Ten in touchdown passes. Now, considering there's 14 teams in the Big Ten, those numbers tell you what? He's an above-average Big Ten quarterback, right? Average is what, 6th, 7th? He's above average. That's what he is. Is he good? Maybe. Is he great? I don't think so. Big thing for him with the Sean Clifford supporters was, he didn't have a running game. You can't expect Sean Clifford to go 40, 50 times back there and throw the ball and win. I agree with that statement. So offensive line is going to need better, and they're going to need better production out of the running back talent. Kevon Lee comes back. But there's one guy that is the best talent that has stepped onto this campus at this position since Saquon Barkley, and that's Nick Singleton. 2021 Gatorade Player of the Year, 5-star guy, #1 running back in the country. There it is, top 30 player. I told you I'd say it again. Nick Singleton is a guy. Not sure if he'll be the #1 back when week 1 rolls around, when they travel to West Lafayette on the very first day of the month of September. But this is a guy that's going to see the field. Could be a kick returner, could be a punt returner. But man, I think he's got a lot of talent that's very difficult to deny. I think Nick Singleton's going to see the field, and maybe by the middle of the season, he might be the #1 guy. I look at like Travion Henderson last year. Look at the type of season he put up at Ohio State. I can see a very similar thing happening at Penn State. If you get the full potential out of Nick Singleton's freshman year, that could add a whole nother dimension to this offense. Now, Sean Clifford's going to have some guys to throw to. Now, I think this is an underrated wide receiving corps. Ohio State, Michigan, Maryland, some of the better ones in the Big Ten. This one's got some doozies as well. Let's take a look. Parker Washington, of course, the #2 guy behind Jahan Dotson last year, 820 yards and 4 touchdowns. For Parker, he's going to be right there. He's going to be right there to possibly have a 1,000-yard season. But there's one transfer coming into this receiving corps that I think is a huge get. Mitchell Tinsley, the Western Kentucky transfer. If you know your Conference USA football, you know all about Mitchell Tinsley. 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns for the Hilltoppers last season. He was 8th in the entire country in receiving yards. If there's one guy that can maybe step up and do close to what Jahan Dotson did last year, it might be Mitchell Tinsley. Mitchell Tinsley and Nick Singleton could add a whole bunch of new dimensions to this offense and make it even more dynamic. Keandre Lambert-Smith, Brennan Strange at tight end, and don't forget about another freshman. All kinds of freshmen coming in. James Franklin has done great in recruiting. Kaden Saunders, 4-star, top 60 player nationally. Not sure if he's going to be in the mix a ton. He might be a #4 type of guy in this offense. But, if he can get on the field, he's just another talent, another guy that they can throw the ball to. They're going to have weapons. There's no excuse not to have a good offense, I should say. Manny Diaz comes in as the defensive coordinator for this team. This seems like a rebound year to me. Franklin, as I said, has done really good in recruiting. This is a rebound year to get back on track, an 8 or 9 winner, and then maybe as he continues to bring in these recruits and these recruits develop, maybe in the next couple of years, they really take the leap in the East Division. Not sure about the Michigan game or the Ohio State game this year, but everybody else on their schedule, I could see it going pretty well. What do you think about Penn State football this year? You think they got a chance to contend for the East Division title? Or are they just going to go 6 or 7 wins like they've been doing, around 500, like they've been doing the last couple of years? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear all of that Nittany Lion talk. Make sure you subscribe. Got all kinds of Big Ten team previews and plenty more content coming up here on the channel. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.